fast.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Oh my God.
I like that voice, recording in progress. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Indulgent Bibliophile January book chat. We are joined today by the author of our book of the month, Celeste Mohammed. Did I pronounce Mohammed right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. As we know, you guys, mics on mute. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, maybe just put it in the chat thingy, comments also there. I will try to keep up with reading it if your questions are there. If not, just raise up your hand whenever I ask any question and you want to add to it, or you also want to contribute like a comment at that time. Yeah? Awesome. All right.
And excuse me, Amin.
Yes.
I wasn't sure if you wanted me to come on screen and everything already, or if you wanted me to wait.
It's your preference, really. I mean, we would love to see you. Is that okay?
No, I didn't know if you were that's fine, but I wasn't sure if you had like book club things to do first before you.
Oh, no. We've already started. We the book chat opened like 30 minutes to.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Hi everybody. Hi.
Oh wow, you're pretty. Okay. Hi. Hiya.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me to.
Thank you for joining us.
To my first book chat in Africa.
Ooh. Awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to dive right in because there was a comment I saw in our WhatsApp group. Oyinda, I think she's here somewhere. She just started reading the book and she said, Pleasantview is not very pleasant. So, and Oyinda and I were some of the readers who like to go into books blind. And that was how I entered Pleasantview. I wasn't expecting a bromance type cutesy story, but yeah, I don't think I was braced for what I experienced, but I'm grateful for learning about okay. Pleasantview has a very strong sense of place, but alas, it's not a real place. Can you just walk us through your world building here? What inspired Pleasantview?
Right. So that's an excellent question to start off with. I really appreciate you asking it. Because let's talk about the elephant in the room. Okay. Pleasantview is not pleasant. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So a fun thing that I like to do, and sometimes it works, sometimes it backfires, is that I like to implicate the reader in the story. So you're not just reading and consuming it, you're participating in some way, right?
Yes.
And so the reaction, it was deliberate. I called the book Pleasantview, and I decided on that cover and all of that because this is an irony that takes place in real life all the time, right? In that people have a view of the Caribbean that is very different to the experience of living here. Particularly so, and we are complicit in it too. There are entire economies in the Caribbean built on giving you that view of the Caribbean. So you come and you spend your US dollars and your euros and so, and not allowing you to see what is actually happening in day-to-day life for a lot, maybe most people in some ways, So I wanted to entice and coax the reader in with the Pleasantview, Caribbean, sun, sea, sun, which is true. It's not that it's a lie, but I want you to have a different experience. I want you to come off the resort with me to a town that's not very far, because it is a fictionally named town, but in my mind, I had a very specific place in mind, a place called Curup, which is not far from the airport. And I just wanted to show you, because I'll be honest, I'm sorry if this offends anybody, but some time ago, I had everybody has seen it, the TED Talk by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie about the single story and the danger of the single story. And she spoke in relation to the single story of Africa, and you know how it's always presented in this terrible one-dimensional way, right?
Yeah.
Which is dehumanizing, right? And so her whole cause is to elevate the portrayals of Africa and to kind of show that they're different sides, right? When I saw that, it resonated with me because it's the same thing about the Caribbean, but in a different way, in that we are always portrayed as blackness light, you know?
Yeah.
Blackness light, lightweights and whatever. And in my own personal life, you know, going to school in the US, traveling or whatever, it annoys me, like I cannot tell you, when people approach me with that mindset. So I'm not supposed to be deep. I'm not supposed to have real problems. I'm not supposed to have a view on international events of consequence or whatever, because I am from the Caribbean. So it's sort of like that whole, what African Americans complain about, where dance, entertain us, sing a song, you know, that's what I'm supposed to be. And so my problems and my everything, you know, they're diminished in everybody's eyes. And I felt, no, I am not going to fall into that. I'm not going to buy into that stereotype. And I'm also not going to do with what some Caribbean writers do, where they feel like in order to get published and to be successful, you have to write into that myth. I wasn't prepared to do that. And I was like, you know what, maybe that's why this book isn't selling. Maybe why nobody wants to publish this book is because I'm not writing into their stereotypes, but that's okay. You know, and I was 2 weeks away from self-publishing the book when a publisher said, you know what, why has nobody picked this up? This is great. And I was like, well, okay, does that mean you want to publish it? And he was like, they were like, yeah, we want to publish it. And that was it, you know? So, and I still have to always come up against that and I don't mind, because I feel like everybody has a view of different parts of the world, and you come into something with your world view, and hopefully, like I say, if I've implicated you in a story enough, and so maybe by the end of it, your worldview will be a little bit changed, and then I've done my job. You don't have to like the book, you don't have to like me, but I do want you to come away changed.
I did come away changed. But now that you just mentioned the publisher, how did it go with editing? I don't want to go into the language yet because we still have another question about it. But how did it go with editing? Because your publisher is US based. Do you have an editor or proofreaders that were from Trinidad?
The good thing about a book taking a long time to come to market is that I started this book was my thesis when I was doing my MFA in Boston. So imagine me writing this stuff. I was the only Black person and the only like Caribbean person in my cohort, right? So imagine them workshopping. If you've ever been to an MFA workshop, you know. And I actually had people tell me, we can't read this. We cannot read this, and I think you need to tone it down, and you're being too regional and blah, 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 and thing. And I was like, and that was my major insecurity. And those things hurt, you know, because I felt like I can't adequately convey life in Trinidad if I don't let you hear how we speak. You know, if I don't give you a chance to hear, because there's some things, the rhythm, the cadence, the onomatopoeia, I think that's the word, that you get in Creole that you're not able to get in standard English, right? So yes. As I wrote the stories during the MFA, they were rigorously critiqued and edited, and so for craft, because that's all they could do. They can't tell me anything about the language apart from the standard English portions, right? And as I, worked on over the years, I kept going back to it. And I will say this though, when I first wrote my first venture into trying to mix standard English and Creole in the narrative voice as opposed to the dialogue was the story 6 Months, which is the one that won the Penn Award in America. And I wrote it the first time, and my very white, very Jewish teacher said, you know what? This isn't working because you're lukewarm. It's either you're in it fully or you're not in it fully. But you're trying to have one foot in proper standard English and the other foot in, and it's not working for you. So decide what you're going to do. And so I decided, you know what, just for kicks, I'll just go as far in as I can with the Creole, and I did. And when we were graduating, we had this meeting with a publishing professional, and we had to come up and read like 5 minutes of something. So I read the opening paragraph of Months, and he looked at me and he said, that will never get published.
Ouch.
I said, and I was like, well, so I didn't have much hopes for this story and then it got published. I will never forget, on the day Donald Trump was inaugurated, I was in my office crying when my phone beeped, and when I looked at it, it was a message saying it was published at this very reputable New England lit journal. And I was like, well, okay. So in my mind, that's the highest that story and Trinidad Creole could ever reach. And then those people loved the story so much that they put it up for this Penn Award. And I was like, whatever, you want me to sign the form, I'll sign the form, whatever. And then they called and said it's won the award, and something went off in my head, and I was like, if this story could win this award, there's no reason why I cannot do what I want to do. And I cannot push these people to read more of what I want to write. So then I went back and I wrote 3 more stories after that. And the stories that were written after that win are very much more steeped in the Creole and in the culture. And I have a friend who is a writer, a local writer, and she, like me, is a lover of our language in all its forms. And so I asked her, could you please look at it? I'm not asking you to look at craft or standard English, but look at it from the point of view of the Creole. And she did, and she and I had some hot debates about it, because even locally, remember, there is no Creole. Well, there is kind of a dictionary, but there's so many different types because of our multicultural heritage in Trinidad. We don't all agree on how things are spelled, and we don't all agree on whether or not to put it in italics, to put a glossary, to how to define things. So we had some debates, but in the end, we came to a place where we agreed enough that I could say to my publisher, listen, you can run with this. If you want to fix these, I write in British English. So if you want to fix this and put it in like American English, go ahead, but don't touch the Creole. And they were like, sure, fine.
Nice. That's also the same thing with Nigerian Pidgin. Well, Pidgin, because Ghanaians also speak Pidgin. But even those in Nigeria, like according to different tribes, I mean, there are some people who brand themselves the owners of Pidgin English. I think these are Niger Delta people. And in fact, it's a whole, they speak Pidgin and I don't even know what they're saying. And possibly the one I speak is like Pidgin Light, for us buttered folks.
It's actually the same thing here, because like depending on where you're from, you would speak a different type of patois. So for example, I'm from South Trinidad. So I'm kind of okay with the sort of, well, we think of it as a sliding scale with, of course, standard English on one end, and on the other end, the absolutely unintelligible Creole that, you can't understand. So I'm okay in the middle, towards the upper, and even a little bit towards like midway down here. But there's a point at which I even don't understand what some people say. Like the guy who does welding, for us, whenever he comes, I have to be like, he says something, and then I ask his brother, what did he say? Because I don't understand what he says. And then the Indian dialect. I don't want to say the Indian dialect, but the Trinidad patois that is more steeped in what we call Bhojpuri, which is the Caribbean Hindi dialect. That is a different thing from the Afro-Trinidadian patois, from the French Trinidad patois. So it's mixed up.
Now that we're talking about this mix-up, I'm just going to piggyback on that. I loved the representation of the different types of people in Pleasantview. I mean, I would not have thought there would be a Syrian man like that high up. Because,
honey.
because us in Nigeria, I think it's the Lebanese that are like the top shots. Then you have the Lebanese.
Well, when we say
Nigerian
when we
passports.
say Syrian,
Mhm.
Syrian is a shortcut to include all those Arabs. So Lebanese, as long as you're Arab, like
okay.
Middle Eastern,
Okay.
we call you Syrian. It's like a shorthand. Just like if you're as long as you're Asian, we call you Chinese.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Syrian is a shortcut for all those Arabs from the Middle East.
Okay. So just based off of the book, that would be Pleasantview sort of encompasses all the different types of cultures and those who have, I can't call them migrated, those who colonized and those who did not go back type cultures, and well, they are still living with their privilege.
Yeah.
I mean, kinda. So that was very
Yes.
interesting to see that the dynamic. Oh, someone is asking when it's time for oh, okay. Yeah, Christine, I'll come back to that. Yes, when it's time for character development. But yeah, it was very interesting seeing the different types of cultures. And
so no, ask a question, but remind me to tell you something about Syrians.
Oh, okay. Not bad. I'm sorry. So I'm really out of it today. So I had to write down everything I wanted to say. I thought I was gonna have the sense to put it. Okay. Yeah, it was still on the dialect. How were you able to balance, not balance, like be authentic and stay true to the dialect and it's not being like a I feel like saying a mimi cry would be rude or offensive, but it's but it's kind of like what's the balance between not completely pushing out people from not being able to read and then keeping it and being true to yourself. How were you able to keep that balance?
Yeah. And as I said, when I went into the MFA program, I had time to practice that because I had a lot of time to see how people from areas that have never interacted with my culture would interact with the language. And so I will say that was one of the great triumphs of the MFA program where I went, because in one sense, it's perspective is everything. So I could have chosen to look at that, and I did for a while, look at it like, oh my God, why am I here? These people don't understand me, and feel victimized. But then I realized this is also an opportunity. This is an opportunity to use them as like guinea pigs to figure out what is the balance, and what is the balance for me includes also, it's not only about them. Where am I comfortable? So that my prose will flow and sound natural and I wouldn't sound, stilted. And so one of the things I did while I was in school was sort of study the masters, as you would say, of the Caribbean canon, V.S. Naipaul, who's probably the only real Trinidadian who's known. But he's been dead for a while, and he was writing about the 1950s, so it's time to move on. It's time to move on from V.S. Naipaul. So I studied him. I studied Sam Selvon, and I really admired their work. I always admired their work for the authenticity as well as the use of Creole. And I studied what he did. I studied craft-wise what he did. And I realized that what he did was he accommodated, if you want to say, it accommodated Creole a little bit for, with standard English. So he would, instead of saying, normally we would say, we wouldn't pronounce the TH at the beginning of words or at the end, really. This and that and sometimes we would just, we would say this and that and them, and it would turn into a D, right? So there are lots of phonetic things that I've seen some writers try to convey, right? But all you end up doing is kind of confusing a reader. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't lean towards phonetic writing of the language because I feel like it fails, So what DVS, Naipaul, and Selvon, Naipaul, Modern Selvon tended to do was you have the standard English, but you, as I said, you accommodate it in ways with syntax, like the order in which we would say things, with the use of, dropping in there some words in context. So you hear the words that we would use, and rhythm. You have to have an ear for the rhythm, because I could say a standard English sentence in standard English and you could still hear my accent if the rhythm is right. So it really was, I can't tell you that it's natural, maybe she's born with it, maybe it's Maybelline. No, it wasn't, it's not a natural thing. I had to actually study, and I still study what other people have done in terms of use of the language, because I can't do what some other people are doing. I have to do what is comfortable for me, so that it comes across authentically.
I was going, before we go into character work, which I know everybody's dying to get into, lovers of Miss Ivy. When you started writing, but no, not when you started, when you were writing the stories, when did you know you were going to put them together in a book? Because I think you said you had written like 3 separately.
Yeah, so what happened, again, we have to go back to the MFA days. At the time when I was in that program, the program requires you to submit 2 new stories every month. So I was just writing for dear life to hold on to get through the program so they wouldn't throw me out of the program, because I was a new mother and a lot of things, right? So, and then at the end, in the final semester, you have to compile a thesis. And so when I sat with stories that I had written, I kind of realized, without me knowing it, there was like a muse or something at work, because thematically these stories were linked. And it didn't take much for me to just kind of realize that, you know what, if I tweak some things, if I repeat this character, if I do this or do that, I could have a linked collection. And so that's what I did. I created a linked collection of 6 stories, and I submitted that for my thesis. And subsequently, when I gained a bit more confidence as the stories began to be published, I then said, you know what, let me push this a little bit further and round it off in a way beyond thesis and more like a more readable book. And that's how I wrote the other 3 stories.
Okay. Lola, you said you have a question about language, Kaden?
Yes. Hello, Celeste. It's Lola.
Hi, there you are.
Hi. Oh yeah, I'm using different. I thoroughly enjoyed the book, and as you commented, yes, you did implicate me in these stories, because there were some parts where I just had to take deep breaths, but it was good. I did using the word did. There's no audio book, so we I'm not able to get the cadence, and I saw that was used throughout, and I did like the usage of that. So on one end, if you wouldn't mind maybe just saying a sentence using did, and my question is that for emphasis? Is that regular Trinidadian patois? Is that in everyday speak? Or Was that just
Yeah.
a style choice for you?
The use of the word did.
Mhm.
Right. So yes, we that's, as I was saying earlier, that is one of the ways that a person could accommodate standard English or Creole. We always put in a do and a did in front of things, like we add these additional grammatic. So if, for example, I wanted to say, just to give you an example, if I wanted to say I had to go to the right, or I didn't want to go to the doctor, but I really had to go, right? Somebody speaking raw Creole would probably say, girl, I didn't want to go, but I had was to go. I had was to go. You don't need the both, but that is how we would say, right?
Mhm.
And also, like, for example, if I wanted to say, I asked you to order food. You didn't order food. My husband, well, not my husband, that's a bad example. He's not Trinidad. But a Trinidadian would say, yeah, I didn't order it because I did tell so and so to order it. I did tell. And I think it comes from taking stuffy English and just like,
Right.
because in English, I did tell would be like almost like you're emphasizing that you did do it.
Mhm.
But for us, we just put in those dids there, and
Right.
in Indo-Trinidadian patois, the same sentence would be said like this. I did, well, like I said, I did tell so and so to do it would be normal, and then the Indo-Caribbean patois would be, I did tell she. So they would take the did and drop off the D at the end and say D. I did tell she.
Okay.
I did tell she to do it, So like I say, it's a sliding scale.
Sure.
I am now trying. I grew up hearing members of my family speak Indo-Caribbean patois, but I remember at the time that I grew up in Trinidad, I was taught that that was absolutely deplorable and never
Same
to
for
be
us in
done,
Nigeria.
right? So it is hard for me now. Now I am now writing a story where I'm trying to access those memories and allow myself to go there and to do the D's. And he tells she like we have this joke. If an Indo-Trinidadian patois speaker were to say, I was down there on that day, right? I was down there on that day. In Indo-Trinidadian patois would be, a didi day dong day di day. You understand what I mean? It's so different.
Totally. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. That puts everything in context. It puts it in context. Thank you. Amazing.
Okay.
Oh, let me add a line for you. Let me add a line for you. So if I say that and then I say I was down there on that day, were you there? That would be a didi day dong day di day. You di day that I did it.
If you had written that, definitely we wouldn't have understood.
I would have definitely posted that. Okay. So as a lover of audiobooks, because we were not able to enjoy this book is there going to be an audio? Is there rights for audiobooks for the book?
Honey child, I don't know what is going on with the audiobook situation because it's now in the hands of my agent and the publishers, and I don't know if you know how this works, but basically we drop out of the picture, the writer, and we just sit and wait. But I have told them that if they are intending at any point to do an audiobook, I would like to do it myself, because I absolutely cannot stand when you pick up a book like written Jamaica, Barbados, whatever, and it's a wrong accent.
Yes.
Or it's somebody trying to do, that is like such a turn off. I wouldn't want to do that to my readers.
I will definitely read this again. whenever.
But you can have your own audiobook.
Yes. So I was going to ask you, where would you like to read? I mean, I love White Envelope. It's one of my favorite stories. But anywhere you would bless us with a reading.
Oh, I was planning to read something I haven't read before, which is a little bit from 6 months. But if you guys want to hear from maybe we should take a vote, White Envelope or 6 months.
Okay. Wow, I'm seeing a lot of White Envelope in the comments already. Yo, drop your votes. Okay, 6 months. 6 months. 6 months, that's 2 6 months. Oh, 3 white. Oh, 4 white
you
envelopes.
you count. I can't keep up.
Yeah, another white envelope. Wow, the 6 months are
While
really
you
coming.
vote, 1 second. I'm just gonna turn off the camera a minute, okay?
Okay. Okay. Wow, really, you guys, 6 months. White envelope people, where are you? Come on. Wow, the 6 months are winning. God damn it. Okay.
Can we be greedy and ask for both?
Yeah,
wow. Let's get it all.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
You can be greedy. You can be.
Yes. yes.
Okay. Wow. You guys know come to play. All right.
All right. Well, I will start with I think I'll start with 6 months.
Okay.
6 months 1, right? 6 months 1?
Yes.
All right, so we'll start with the one that won. All right. I'm starting, well, I don't know what some of you, which version you have, the UK or the US version, but I'm going to start on page 160.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. You call your cousin Rufus in New York. America have the most factories. Rufus named citizen. He must know somebody to offer you something under the table. 3 days later, he called back. Good news. If you organize your visa and ticket and get there by September month end, they'll squeeze you in at the Estong supermarket near his house in Queens. Engineering work, you say? And the man say no, it's the meat room. You tell Rufus, yeah, but same speed, you hang up and tell Judith, he mad or what? I have education. You plan to wait a couple weeks, then say you didn't get the visa. Meantime, you drop your tail between your leg and call your 18-year-old baby sister Gail. You think you could ask that old man something for me? A job nah, Gail say, like she was waiting on the call. Yeah, Gail, things hard. You know I's not the kind to ask Mr. H for favors, but them Syrians, they own everything. See what you could do now? Imagine you asking Gail for help. After you never do one ask for her. After you did move out and leave her with a drunk skunk, your father, Luther Sr. When she first hooked up with Mr. H, that married asshole, it did make you feel to vomit. Your little sister spreading her legs for him, for his money. You did tell Judith as much and she say, well, talk to Gail. You she big brother. But you did say, nah, it's not my place. And it's true. Gail was fucking for betterment. How you could ever face her and say don't when Mr. H was the one minding her, putting a roof over she head, food on she table, clothes on she back, making she feel classy, giving she a start in life. That is more than you, Mr. Big Brother, or your waste of time father ever do for the little girl. Shame. Next day, Gail called back. Sorry, boy, hard luck. You wonder if she even asked. One night, after everybody fall asleep, you're packing away the school books your son Jason leave on the dining table. Flipping through his sketch pad, a heading in red catch your eye. My family. 4 stick figures in scratchy crayon clothes. Use the tallest. And next to your watermelon head, it have an arrow and a label. Luther Jr., stay at home dad. In your hand, it have something that resemble an axe A boat paddle? Nah, you realize it's a spatula. Fuck, you mumble, pulling out a chair and sinking in it. Your son gone and asked the teacher what to call you now that you scratch your balls for a living.
Awesome.
Is that okay, Lola?
That's so awesome.
Yes, 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 yes.
That was so lovely. I want the audiobook now.
Oh my
Before,
God, that was
any
awesome.
questions? Any questions on this before I move on to the other one? This
Does any-
section, I mean.
Does anybody have any question on this section? I saw your hand raised before. Oh, it was an applause. There was a lot of clapping. All right. No.
Oh, okay.
Still understand.
No, okay. Let me move on to the other part. White envelope. You know, I can't even remember which one. White envelope is number 3, right? Yes. Right. This is one of my favorite sections to read. So I hope you enjoy it too. I'm on page 73.
Okay.
I ain't sleep whole night. The tossing and turning, the crying, and Mr. H words in my head like a record sticking. And his face, oh God, that face. A white cloud turning gray with rage. I don't understand it. The man gave me a whole year of words and feelings and everything heading in one direction, and then bam, last night, you turn. I throw open the top half of my kitchen door. It's only 7, but the sunlight barging in as if it was waiting on the back step whole night. It's the kind of heat that make green things turn brown and dead. Through the glare, I peep up by the back house to see if Miss Ivy windows open yet. I've been thinking about her since 4 o'clock when I did get up to pee. I need help. I need advice from somebody who know Mr. H longer than me. Yes, the window is open and the flowered curtain tie up in a knot. On the first knock, Miss Ivy answer. Hey, Gail, what happened, Dudu? How your face hang down like Tom Dooley so? Something wrong? Miss Ivy talking like she's surprised, but underneath, I getting her vibes like she was expecting me. It have me uncomfortable, and I almost make an excuse to leave, but I don't know nobody else to ask for help. I steady myself and tell Miss Ivy I have an urgent problem, so I need her to read the cards and tell me what to do. Come in now, she say, like she excited. I sit down on Miss Ivy couch, and almost right away, my thighs start sweating till they glue down on the clear plastic that covering the cushions. While Miss Ivy knocking pan and kettle in the little makeshift kitchen, I take in the whole place. I never been in one of these back house apartments before. Miss Ivy have it neat and clean, but it's just one room, only a wobbly fiberboard screen blocking off she jail-style bed. And she does share a toilet with Mr. Winston, the old man living next door. Through the tin paneling, I hear in his TV on that 7-day Adventist program. I wonder if he might hear what I'm telling Miss Ivy. But I have worse things to worry about. If I don't change Mr. H's mind by month 10, I might be making baby in one of these cardboard box apartments. Nah, no Jesus, not my child, not my half Syrian child. Growing up in Pleasantview, hard enough if you're poor and black, but it was if you're light skinned and have good hair. Then everybody knows some high color man did take your mother for her ass, and that you have a fine, respectable daddy who don't want you. You come like a double joke. No, not my child. Miss Ivy reached back now with the deck of cards she does use to see the future. She rested down on the wobbly center table between us. Give me the full story, she said, and don't afraid to call name. I start talking, and then I start crying. But the old lady just sit down there, stone-faced, sipping she orange peel tea, She never once blinked. And when I'm done explaining, it's me who have to drop my gaze. What it is you really want, my child? She asked. How you mean, Miss Ivy? I stutter. God bless me with a child and a child father who could take we out of Pleasantview. I have a chance for a proper family. I want my family, Miss Ivy. Resting down her mug, she said, Gail Dudu, God will never bless you with a next woman husband. And I could put my head on a block. He ain't bless you with Mr. H. How you could say that, Miss Ivy? You ain't even watched the cards yet and you're talking so negative. I don't have to watch the cards to tell you about Mr. H. I cleaned that man's toilet for 20 years. It have nothing I don't know about he. That's why I could tell you straight to your face, the man is a womanizer. Don't fool yourself. He is not the first. Oh, but I is the last though. I know he had girls before. He confessed and tell me all that, but he was just searching. It's different with me and him.
Yeah.
The connection, it's just special. Even he says so. Special? Ah, Lord. You think you special, little girl? So you better than all them other little girls who did come in here and sit down right where you sitting down to tell me the same story? Yes, Miss Ivy, I make myself different to them. I learn from Mr. H and I try to uplift myself. I'll stop there.
Woo. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Amazing.
That was really good.
Oh wow. My first question from that part is Miss Ivy. She's like the thread that holds Pleasantview together. And how was she created? Is she from someone you know, or like a combination of people? Who inspired Miss Ivy? Because I can see I wish I could draw so I could do fan art of Miss Ivy because I can see her so clearly in my mind.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Every village, in every town, in every hamlet, in everywhere I feel in our cultures, our matriarchal, our post-colonial, whatever words you want, in our cultures, there's always a Miss Ivy. There will be Miss Ivies in India, there will be Miss Ivies in Africa, there will be Miss Ivies here. There's always that one mother figure in the village. And I just felt that she was a universal symbol of something, and we could all relate to her. So I have a million Miss Ivies in my mind because in our culture, I grew up in a very, as you say, the woman in my family was very strong. And so Trinidad culture, everybody has a tanty. Any woman you meet on the street who's older than you, you call her tanty. Yeah, which is from the French tante, whatever, which means auntie. So tanty and uncle, everybody, you know, so there's always a tanty in every town. And Miss Ivy's that auntie.
Okay. Faith, you have your hand up.
Oh, hello.
Hi, Faith.
You read beautifully. Like I could listen to you read and speak all day. I love it. I wanted to ask, do you have a favorite story to write? Like of all the stories you wrote, did you have a favorite to write? And do you have a favorite to read out? Like the way you said that you had this passage that you like in white envelope. So I'd love to know.
My favorite story to write was Santimanity. And because it's a fun story, you know, it involves music and song and so. And I actually collaborated on those verses. I wrote the last one by myself entirely, but the first two I actually elicited the help of somebody who was the extempore monarch of Trinidad and Tobago at the time. I called him up. A mutual friend gave me his number, and I said, listen, I'm writing this story, and I want to showcase extempore, which hasn't been done before. And I want to showcase extempore, and I know exactly what I want to say, but I don't have the confidence to put it into an extempore verse. So he said, he said, send him what I wanted to say, and I sent it to him, and he did the first verse, and I said, okay, great. And then he said, well, let's work on the second one together, and we did. And then I said, okay, I feel I could do the last one by myself, and I did. So that was the one that's my favorite to write and to read. I enjoy reading from Ides of March, the Miss Ivy. Miss Ivy portions in Ides of March, particularly where she is doing the card reading for her friend Agneta. I love reading that section. It's just really, it's very funny.
Yeah, and it was so vivid. I actually could see them there acting out together, so I really did love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you.
Do you have a favorite character?
Miss Ivy.
Okay. That was easy. I think there was someone who had a question about Omar. I can't remember who it was again. And I cannot remember your question. So perhaps you can put your hand. Who was it?
It was me, but I'm eating right now. Come back to me.
Okay, I'll be back.
I'm trying to catch up on the chat, but wow, there's a lot happening in the chat.
Yes, there's a lot happening.
I'm ready. Hold on.
Okay. All right.
I just really liked Omar, and I felt like, in the earlier parts and then later, he really developed a lot. And I just was hoping that maybe you could comment on Omar.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you all a secret about Omar. He's my second favorite character, and apparently everybody as well. People always ask me about Miss Ivy and Omar, right? I want to believe that's because, not that I want to believe, I do believe that readers can sense when a writer is very emotionally connected to the character. I believe you all can sense when a writer is having fun and when the writer is just phoning it in, right? That's why it's not easy for my editors to edit me, because sometimes I'm just like, no, I'm not changing that. But I told you how I feel about Miss Ivy. There's so many Miss Ivies in my life. And Omar, I've never told anybody this before, but when, as I said, during the MFA, you had to just write 2 stories a month and submit it. And I was in my first semester, my second semester of the MFA. So in my second semester of the MFA and having to submit a story, and bam, I realized that I was pregnant. And I was like, this is terrible timing, right? But I'm pregnant and I have to, I've tried so hard, I've worked so long to try to even be here, to live my dream, to become a writer. So I was in a very emotional space, and I had to come to terms with the fact that I was going to have a baby. And I wasn't sure what it was, because of my own history, my own life history. I didn't want it to be a girl. I wanted it to be a boy. I felt life would be easier for him. And I felt like if it were a girl, there was a chance that I would have to relive. Living through something is hard, but watching your child, your daughter, live through the same thing as a woman it would probably, I don't know if I could survive that. So I wanted a boy. I figured raising a boy would be easier, and all of that. And so when I was sitting down to write my next story to hand in, I had in my mind that maybe I was carrying a boy. And I kind of just sat for a minute with what that meant and what raising a boy would be like and what it's like to be a boy coming of age and going into the world that we live in, And I just felt this huge welling up of compassion and emotion and so for this character that I didn't really know. And somehow my mind made the connection to the vulnerability, the largeness, the size, the whatever, the leatherback turtle, but its vulnerability at the same time. You know, my mind made that connection, and that's how the story came to be.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Ooh.
Thank you for sharing.
Who was talking? Was that Christine?
I just said thank you.
Oh, okay, okay. Anime, your hand is up.
Hi everyone. Hi Celeste.
Hi.
So while reading the book, it was very apparent to me that there's a caste system in Trinidad and Tobago, and I assume that it's pretty much the same all over the Caribbean. And you were saying that you wanted to show the rest of the world what it's really like to live in the Caribbean, that it's not land, sun, and all that. But I was wondering, what was the reception like in Trinidad and Tobago, in the Caribbean, of this book of Pleasantview? Like, how did people react to the stories? Were they like, oh yeah, this is definitely what it is like to live here? Or were they in denial? Were they like, this is too much, we aren't that racist, we aren't that colorist, the caste system isn't that bad? Like, how did people react to the collection?
Yeah. Firstly, the first thing I should point out is that's another one of the myths or misconceptions about the Caribbean, as I'm sure you could relate to in relation to Africa, because people talk about Africa like it's one country, like if South Africa and Nigeria and what you call Tunisia, all of those places are like the same. And I'm pretty sure they're not, culturally and otherwise, but you would tell me, right? People make the same mistake about the Caribbean, thinking that the entire region is the same, but there's a lot of differentiation between the different islands, depending on who was your colonial father, right? British, French, Dutch, Spanish, whatever. 2, what is the language currently spoken, of course. 3, where the size of the territory, larger territories versus the small little tiny islands, right? Because the size of the territory and who was your colonial father determined what happened after the abolition of slavery, right? And so, for example, you have Trinidad. We are one of the larger islands. We're not as big as the big ones up on the top, but we are fairly big among the islands. And right on to one side, you have Grenada, which is a dot. And then to the other side, way out in the Atlantic, the closest island to Africa is Barbados, right? Which is also a little dot. I've lived in Barbados, I've lived here. Very different cultures, because when slavery ended, we're both British colonial, but when slavery ended, slaves in Barbados had nowhere to go. So, okay, slavery is over, but where do you go? There's no way to go. So you continue working on the same estate, whatever. And even if you did get a little plot of land to farm on your own, who are you selling it to? So they were kind of locked in, and their mindset, their culture, there was absolutely no need to import labor because your labor force hasn't moved. Whereas in Trinidad, which is just a little bit away, we are a larger territory, and we have highs and lows and mountains and valleys and swamp and all. So when abolition happened and emancipation fully came, everybody was like, bye, so there was nobody to work on the estate. So they had to import labor. And that importation of labor, of course, they tried different places, lots of different places, because before they ended up on India being the best fit. But that importation of labor caused a different society to form in Trinidad than would have formed in Barbados. It caused a different culture, differences in the language, differences in the ethnic. I wouldn't happen in Barbados. You know what I mean? And so the Caribbean is different islands of different cultures, and Trinidad's culture is unique. It really is unique in the entire Caribbean. Below us is South America, so you have Guyana, and which is probably the closest in terms of the number of immigrants from Asia that came. Not immigrants, that's the wrong word, indentured laborers that came. But Guyana is a huge part of a continent. So obviously their size allowed for African, well, formerly slaves, to just run way up into the hinterland and whatever, and keep their communities and their culture almost intact until now. So we do have some space and whatever, but so you had this melding together that happened here that did not happen anywhere else. And so that is what resulted in the society we have. However, like everywhere else in the Western Hemisphere, white is right. Brown, stick around. Black, get to the back, right? That was how, and so the lighter skinned you were, the better your hair, you got ahead. It wasn't until the 1970s that dark-skinned people could work in a bank or be seen as the front face of anything. I was born in 1976, you know, so that's to tell you how very recent it is that people of color could get ahead. Well, not get ahead, but be seen in a certain way. And so also for me, that's why it was important to write in Creole. That's why it is important to write in Creole. It is important to read Creole. I grew up, my whole entire life, I grew up, I went to school, I went into law, and at every step of the way, I was told the Queen's English is the only thing I should ever speak. I should never write anything unless it's written in the Queen's English. And I should hate the sound of anything other than that. And I had to become a big woman and kind of realize that, you know what, no. So as for the caste system, as everywhere else, you know, there's classes and different castes, but it's complicated here because here's something that you would never, this is going to blow your mind. I am mixed race, grew up in a mixed race family, whatever, in the South. And so our family is mixed, whatever. I just never even thought about certain things. But when I had to come up north to go to university after high school, I was like a deer in headlights because I just didn't even understand that, like, people would say, they would call me, well, you know, Indian from South. And being an Indian from South was a bad thing. And I didn't know that until I came to the North, you know, like, and when even later on in life, when I started working, I working at a law firm, my first job. And they kind of said to me, you know, other lawyers, you know, you're very lucky that you're mixed, you have a little black in you. Because if you were just an Indian from South, I don't know. So the prejudice is not only anti-Black, it moves in different directions depending on where you are. And so in an urban environment, white adjacent, and a certain type of Black person. And, you know, depending on where you are, the prejudice is different. And luckily or unluckily for me, I have been allowed to be privy to things I shouldn't hear people say because I'm allowed to slide in between being mixed. So sometimes people feel very comfortable saying certain things in front of me that they wouldn't say in front of other people. And I'm just like, yeah, well, I know what to think of you now. I'll just make a note for my next book.
Genius. Yeah, there are levels. There are levels to this.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have questions? I was gonna ask some fun bits before our time is up. Anybody? Okay, Christine, your hand is up.
When can we expect the next book?
Well, the next adult book I am working on right now, it's going to be another novel in stories. It's looking like 8 or 9 stories, but instead of giving you that sort of bird's eye view tour of a town, Trinidad, through a town, this one is going to focus in on a family through multiple generations. And I'm glad I just explained all what I explained to you guys, because it's going to focus in on the Indian part of my culture and what that brings, and some of the burdens that come along with that, with being an Indian girl.
Cannot wait. And I hope that we read it for this book club and that you come back.
Yay, I hope so too.
Thank you.
Fingers crossed.
There are 2, before that one sees the light of day, though, there are 2 children's books that are supposed to come out. They've been accepted for publication, so they will come out. And I can tell you, one of them is about the steel pan, and the other one is about something called the Pitch Lake. I don't know if you know, we have the largest naturally occurring lake of asphalt in the world.
Oh,
yeah. Okay. So those will come out in time too.
That sounds interesting.
Are they like picture books, or are they like middle grade books? What age
no,
group?
they're picture books. Because I have a little daughter, and it's like during the pandemic, I was like, I couldn't import books anymore. Like I couldn't get books into the country, and I don't like reading too much on my Kindle thing. And so I was like going crazy. And then I said, Celeste, what is your problem? You could write a book for her.
Exactly.
So that's, I wrote the first one, and then second one. Yeah.
Okay. So in your own reading life, what do you look out for? Like what kind of books do you enjoy reading?
Like I said, I really enjoy Adichie's work. She's so good at, I can't comment on the content as much as the craft. Her writing craft is so good. I study it, I learn from it. I like to read African writers. I like to read, at one point I was going through a phase of reading only Indian authors, because I saw so many things. I see so many things that relate to my own life. Unfortunately, I try when I'm writing, when I'm working on my own books, I try not to read any Caribbean writers unless it's like mentor texts from, as I said, Naipaul or Selvon, because I don't want to be influenced by what other people are doing.
Yeah.
And I don't want to inadvertently, copy what other people are doing. So last thing I read was what? So many I've been trying to read. Actually, right now I'm rereading kind of a humorous book about this guy who gets drunk and does crazy things. I can't even remember the name of it, but I just read in the spaces in between my own writing, but I try to, because I am concentrating on writing right now, I'm not reading people who could influence me. But on my shelf behind you, see there's quite a lot of there's a lot of Naipaul, there is Adichie, there is Sadie Smith, there is I love Sadie Smith, by the way. Junot Diaz. I actually like Junot Diaz's writing. I mean, whatever he might be as a man, I do appreciate his writing a lot.
I love that little shade. Like, he's a man. I mean, men can write sometimes when they put their mind to it.
No, what I meant was he's been in trouble lately.
Yeah,
for
I also saw that.
indiscretions, you know, so whatever. He's not in vogue right now, but I do like his writing.
What do you do when you're not reading for fun?
Playing Nintendo with my child.
Oh.
She's an only child, and you know, so you have to also be playmate or whatever. So apart from playing Nintendo, cooking or being a mother, because being a writing mom carries with it a lot of guilt. You know, I have to lock myself away in here for long periods, and I feel guilty sometimes. So when I'm not doing that, then I try to be very present with her, you know.
There's a good one. If you could invite 4 writers, dead or alive, to brunch, who would you invite? Just 4.
Just 4. Well, right away, yes, Sadie Smith. One. I really admire Naipaul, but I don't want to have lunch with him. I was told he was not a nice person. So Sadie Smith. There is an American short story writer, mostly short story, called Laurie Moore, who I really enjoy her work. Really enjoy her work. And I will admit, I have in the past tried to emulate her ability to tell a story that is sad but funny at the same time. So that would be 2. Yeah, Adichie, why not? Yeah,
it's fun at a party.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I like her sense of fashion too.
Ooh, yeah. Yep. Always on point. You have one more?
Yeah. And the 4th one, who will be the 4th one, boy? Boy, that's a good question. That is a very good question. I'm not sure. Actually, I'm drawing a blank. I don't know who I would want to meet with. I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll invite Juno just to see how he would fare among so many women.
Okay. I don't know if you would choose any of these writers, but if you could pick one to write your biography, who would it be?
My biography. Actually, I have said this before, and it's going to sound so dumb, but I don't know if you know who Mindy Kaling is.
Yes.
I think she would do a very good job of writing my biography, because she would get it. She would totally understand all the ironies and the conflicts involved in coming from an Indian home and not ascribing to the same views as you're expected to.
She's funny. I like her.
Yeah.
Okay. If no one has any questions, this would be our time to say thank you for joining us.
Come on, guys.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
If I happen to make it to part of Spain,
Thank you.
if I happen to make it to part of Spain, can we have brunch?
If you're buying, sure.
Oh.
I love it. I love it.
Love to see it.
Super. Thank you so much, Celeste, for joining. We really enjoyed the book, and we would make sure we keep preaching the good news to people so that more people can buy.
Evangelism never stops.
Let me just say thank you for inviting me, and for being such a great audience. And I just want to say thank you because you guys, I seem to have struck a chord in Jamaica and in Africa for some reason. Aww. And I really appreciate it, because I'll tell you something. As I said, it's a small little publisher who independent publisher who picked up the book. It's not like we have marketing. It's not like we have a publicist or anything. All the success this book has had has come from people like y'all, the readers, the bookstagrammers, just sharing. And that means so much to me, because this morning I was telling my mother, she said, "Did you ever believe that somebody in Africa would be reading your book?" And I said, "No, I didn't." And I'm so grateful. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And yeah, keep reading Caribbean. And feel free to write me, DM me anytime to ask me questions about the Creole.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay. Those of you who have copies, can you like raise it up so that we can take a group photo? Let me just, can somebody take a photo? I can't seem to be able to take a pic on my. Can someone take a photo of us and send to me?
Let me see. There must be a button for that.
There's a button somewhere, but
Hit screen, I think, right? Print screen.
Print screen or something.
Not if you have a Mac, I think.
Oh, the Mac users. Oh my God.
Have to do Shift Command 4. That's 3 fingers.
Well, I'm using another one to hold the book. I don't know how many fingers.
Let me see.
So I took a couple of screenshots. I don't know if they are the best, but I would share them.
Awesome.
Okay,
All
great.
right.
And
Thank you
didn't
so
tell
much.
us when you were taking this picture.
Wow, we're too young to be doing this, you guys.
Sorry, I thought we were all in our picture ready.
All right, you guys.
I didn't come in pajamas.
Okay.
Thank you so much,
Celeste.
Celeste.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Celeste.
You as well.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Whew.
This is so good.
That was so good.
That was
Oh my
fantastic.
gosh.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This lady is
It
awesome.
was great.
She's so cool. My God.
Very.
Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
I'll keep
Oh,
We need
my
to
what a-
fast track the audiobook.
What a
we do.
gem.
Like who do
I
we
agree.
We
need?
need to fast track that audiobook.
And she has to be the one
I
to do
agree.
it because right now I can't get her voice out of my head.
Wale,
Yeah, like who's
if anybody
doing
does it,
the
I'm
edition?
fighting. I'm throwing hands.
Is it Jacaranda we write?
start a
Do we
petition.
petition?
You know,
We send a
Jacaranda, they are
petition.
very slow. This one that they
Come to
sent to me was
Jacaranda.
Jacaranda
in
is
120
the
days.
Jacaranda
I
is UK publisher.
I think I ordered mine from Blackwell's, and it came short order. It came very fast.
Blackwell in the UK.
Because
Blackwell.
Jacaranda, I mean, like directly from the publisher, you would think it would be fast.
I know.
Well,
No, it's
in
never
like 3
fast.
weeks.
The
To the
one
US.
time I ordered from Jacaranda, it took forever.
Oh my
No.
goodness. That's
All right.
sad.
Try Blackwell's. If you're
Okay.
looking for UK
Wow.
editions, try Blackwell's. It
Okay.
comes in like 3 weeks max.
The
Yeah.
only
Oh,
reason I
really?
went to Jacaranda was when it was published and she went on Instagram and said you can order from them direct. That's the only reason I went through them.
Obviously, they are not focused. All right, you guys. We shall meet in the chat room in the WhatsApp.
What's the next book?
Oh, the next book. The next book we're reading is The Blessed Girl.
The blessed girl.
The Blessed Girl.
Miss-
This is February book.
I found the audiobook on Scribe.
Yes,
Miss
it's there.
Yes, it's on. Yeah.
Yes. All right,
I'm
you
starting
guys.
the week with it tomorrow.
You would
Bye.
I will upload on YouTube this
Bye,
one for people who
Kristen.
did not watch. But all right. Bye, y'all.